Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Back to Ashes. My name is Phoenix. To the elite members of the channel, thank you for your continuous and dedicated support. I can't really put the rest into words, but thank you. With all of that being said, it is now time to go back to ashes. For once we arise from the ashes, we are a bigger, brighter, stronger, and happier person every day. Sit back, relax, kick back, grab a snack, or tuck in and get warm, and prepare for your dose of vocal melatonin entitled True Stalker Stories. Right after this intro, there will be an ad. I'll read the first story, there will be an ad. And after that, there will be no more ads within this video. We'd only been in the neighborhood 3 months when the shadows started to creep. A new build community. All cookie-cutter houses with identical facades, fresh sod laid like a promise of safety, curving sidewalks that seemed to hum with suburban predictability. Nico and I had fled the city's chaos for this something slower, something stable. For a while, it was exactly that. He'd leave at dawn, swallowed by his tech job downtown. Microchips, firmware, things I never quite grasped. I stayed home with Devin, our 6-year-old son, and Maddie, barely a year, still wobbling on unsteady legs. Our days were a rhythm of diapers, snacks, and the low drone of cartoons. It was quiet, safe, or so I thought. Mornings, I'd walk Devin to school, 3 blocks of pristine pavement, lined with mailbox clusters and sleepy moms clutching coffee mugs. We'd count squirrels or ramble about Minecraft mobs, his small hand in mine. Maddie gurgling in the stroller. It was my anchor, this routine, a tether to normalcy. We hadn't made friends yet, just polite waves from neighbors, surface-level chats with other moms at drop-off. I wasn't looking for a best friend. I just wanted my kids safe, my house quiet. Looking back, that's what made me invisible. Easy to overlook. A perfect mark. I didn't notice the wrongness at first. It crept in softly, like fog over a graveyard. He was there one morning, leaning against the chain-link fence by the school drop-off line. JR, he called himself. Dad-like posture, easy smile, nothing to set off alarms. Said he has a daughter in 2nd grade. Small talk, harmless. Nice day, huh? He said, his voice smooth as polished stone. I nodded, smiled because why wouldn't I? We were surrounded by parents, teachers, kids. A bubble of safety, or so it seemed. He was there the next morning, and the next, always in the same spot, like he'd claimed it, his brown jacket blending into the fence's rust. We'd nod, exchange a word about the weather or the chaos of the parking lot. He had this charm, the kind that slips under your skin before you notice. Said he used to work in HVAC, laughed about his daughter bossing him around. I chuckled, not wanting to be rude. But by the 4th day, when he called me by name, "Morning, Daisy," with that little wave, something shifted. It was too familiar, too fast, like he'd skipped the step where strangers become acquaintances. I brushed it off. It was daylight. People were around. I didn't want to be that person, the one who sees monsters in every shadow. Then came the mail. Monday morning. My phone buzzed with a school-wide alert. The subject line hit me like a fist. Safety alert. Suspicious individual. My stomach dropped as I opened it. A man loitering near campus. No child enrolled. A blurry photo from a teacher's phone. I froze. It was JR. Same brown jacket, same half-cocked smile, now twisted into something predatory in the grainy image. My skin went cold, my breath shallow. I stared at that screen, the world tilting. I called Nico, my voice shaking. Babe, I need to stop walking Devin to school. Jesus, he muttered after I explained the email. The photo, JR. No more walking. Use the car. I'll talk to the school. I nodded, though he couldn't see me, my hands trembling as I clutched the phone. That afternoon, I called the school, spilling everything. JR's name, his supposed daughter, his constant presence. The woman on the line went quiet, her voice low when she spoke. That's the first time we've heard a name. This could help. I hung up, nausea twisting my gut. I'd been feeding him scraps, my name, my smile, without realizing I was bait. 10 minutes later, I was bouncing Maddie on my hip, glancing out the living room window. A silhouette passed by. Quick, deliberate. Jacket, baseball cap, wide shoulders. My heart stopped. I leaned closer, but they'd already turned the corner. Was it him? No, it couldn't be. My mind was playing tricks on me, conjuring ghosts, but the hairs on my arms stood rigid, whispering truths my brain refused to hear. For weeks, I stuck to the car, parking in the drive-off zone, avoiding eye contact. The school said JR hadn't been seen again. No weird run-ins, no sightings. He'd vanished. That should have been a relief, but it wasn't. It felt like he was still there, lurking just beyond sight, waiting. The quiet of the neighborhood, once comforting, now felt like a held breath, heavy with menace. By the third week, I was unraveling. I missed the fresh air, the routine, Devin's chatter about creepers and zombies. Other moms still walked, laughing in their activewear, sipping coffee while their kids darted around. I felt like I was caging myself for someone else's sickness. So, one morning, I decided to try again. Just one day. A test. I strapped Maddie into her stroller. I laced up my shoes, and I told Devin we were walking. He cheered, like I'd promised him candy. The walk to school was deceptively normal. I chatted with some moms at the gates, laughed about first grade homework. JR's name came up. That creep probably got scared off, one mom said, dismissing him like a bad dream. I played dumb, nodding, but I had goosebumps. The walk back was different. The streets were too wide. The drop-off rush drained away, leaving the neighborhood hollow. Halfway home, I realized how alone I really was. Maddie babbled softly, oblivious. I glanced behind me. There he was, JR. A block back, maybe less. Hat pulled down, brown jacket, walking too casually to be chance. My pulse roared in my ears. I pushed the stroller faster, sweat beading on my neck. I stole another glance. He was closer now, his steps deliberate, eating the distance between us. Then he vanished, ducked behind a trash bin, gone like smoke. I stopped, ears straining. The wind rattled a tree, but beneath it, I swore I heard breathing. Not mine, not Maddie's. Close. Too close. Then his voice, loud and smooth, like a blade wrapped in velvet. "Hey, Daisy, wait up." He stepped out from a bush, 30 feet back, waving like we were old friends. I screamed. Maddie wailed. I ran, the stroller wobbling on uneven sidewalk, my legs heavy as lead. I veered onto Maple Court toward the Dawson's home, the only one I recognized. I bolted up to their porch, slamming my palm against the doorbell. "Help! Please help!" His footsteps were faster now, no pretense. I turned. He was closer, eyes wild, that smile gone, replaced by something hungry, unhinged. I banged on the door, knocking. No one was home. Then, click. The doorbell camera hummed alive. Benny's voice crackled through. "Hey, what the hell's going on?" "He's chasing me," I sobbed. "Please call the police." "All right on it," Benny said. "Hang tight." I looked up. JR had stopped, frozen, his eyes locked. He knew he'd been seen. He turned and bolted, vanishing around a corner like a shadow swallowed by night. The cops arrived in under 10 minutes, lights off but urgent. I was still on the patio, clutching Maddie, her whimpers muffled against my chest. One officer escorted me inside, while another scoured the neighborhood. Nothing. JR was gone. I gave them everything, his description, the timeline, the name he'd given me. They asked if I was sure about his name. "It's what he told me," I said, the words bitter. This was the sickest part. He wanted me to know him, or think I did. They walked me home, cruisers creeping ahead and behind, like a funeral procession. Nico came home early, holding me in the kitchen while Maddie napped and Devin watched TV, oblivious to the evil I'd outrun. The cops never found JR, not really. But in the woods beyond our street, just past the fence line, they found his things, buried under leaves, too neat to be random. Gloves, a pack of snacks, an empty water bottle, a notebook with names, first names, some crossed out, others underlined. Mine was there. So was Devin's. They said it wasn't enough to prove intent. No assaults, no threats. Just fear. Just a woman with a baby and a bad feeling that was right. We installed a security camera. Nico started working from home 3 days a week. I didn't walk anywhere for months. I kept seeing him in every shadow, every flicker of movement. His silence was the worst part. How he'd gotten so close without raising his voice. His hand. The kind of danger that smiles, chats about the weather, then turns on you like a blade. Devin asked why we stopped walking to school. I lied. Said the sidewalks were under construction. He shrugged and ate his cereal. But the truth is, the sidewalkers were never the problem. It's people. The ones who watch, who wait, who knows your name before you realize they've been studying you the entire time. I'd live in that ground floor apartment for just under a year, a one-bedroom cage on the east side of a decaying complex where the walls seemed to exhale despair. The building was old, its cheap carpet frayed into threads, stained with the sins of forgotten tenants. My neighbors were close enough that a sneeze could pierce the flimsy drywall. their lives seeping into mine. Shouts through the vents, the rare late-night party teetering toward violence. Mostly, though, it was quiet. A graveyard of middle-aged dreamers, their ambitions crushed under debt's weight. The cops came twice in those first 6 months, their visits brief, unimportant. I kept to myself, dragging through long work days, coming home to reheat dinners and let the TV's hum dull my thoughts. This place was supposed to be my refuge, my first rental adult anchor. For a while, it was. Then Flynn happened. It was a Wednesday morning, the air thick with June's heat, when his van blocked my car in the lot. I was late for work, banging on the cab's window, my breath fogging the glass. He didn't apologize, just stared. His eyes were hollow, like I was a shadow he couldn't place. Thin, maybe 40s, but his face was ageless, a mask that made my skin crawl. Black hoodie, gloves in the summer swelter, army boots with laces knotted tight, like he was ready for war. Not the kind of man who belonged in this crumbling low-income complex. I gave my name, got his, Flynn, in a voice like gravel, barely used. By noon, the van was gone, and he vanished behind his door, swallowed by the apartment like it had claimed him. The first week was silence, but the air near his unit turned heavy, electric, like standing too close to a humming transformer in the dark. After midnight, I'd hear faint clicks of metal, the low scrape of something dragged across his patio's concrete. Never loud enough to call the cops, but enough to make me pause, my fork frozen over my plate, listening to the night's pulse. By the second week, I knew Flynn wasn't eccentric. He was unmoored. A man teetered on the edge of something dark. The first fire came on a humid night. I thought it was a grill at first, stepping onto my patio, only to be hit by the stench of burning paper and something sharper, like melted plastic. I peered around the divider, and there he was, Flynn, crouched over a rusted coffee can, flames licking the air. He fed papers into the fire with a lover's care, his eyes locked on the glow, unblinking, worshipful. I grew up Baptist. I've seen that look in church, faces lost in divine surrender. But this was something different, profane, like he was offering something to God that didn't forgive. My stomach turned. I stood there, rooted, until he glanced my way. His eyes met mine, not angry, but empty. A void that pulled at my nerves. Without a word, he reached out slow and deliberate and capped the can, snuffing the fire. He slipped inside, leaving the night heavier, thicker. I didn't sleep, a stare clawing at my thoughts. A few nights later, the noises began. Around 2 a.m., a slow, heavy scraping came through our shared wall. Metal on tile, deliberate, like furniture dragged an inch at a time. The baseboard heater buzzed faintly with each move, a low hum that set my teeth on edge. It lasted only minutes, but it came every night, precise, unhurried, like a ritual. I started a notebook, scribbling every sound, every oddity, not because I thought it was criminal, but because the weight of it felt like it was coiling towards something inevitable. Then the SUV appeared, matte black, no plates, windows tinted into mirrors. It rolled into the lot one night, silent as death. The men who stepped out didn't belong. No chains, no tattoos, just crisp suits in military precision. Clean shaven, faces like stone, moving like they drilled every step. They knocked once on Flynn's door, and it opened instantly, as if he'd been waiting in the dark. No voices, no laughter, just the creak of furniture and soft footsteps, like ghosts pacing the floor. They stayed 2 hours, then left in that same synchronized silence. I saw them 3 times in 2 weeks, always at night, always without sound. I tried asking Flynn about it by the mailboxes, giving a friendly nod, asking if he was settling in. He didn't look up, just muttered, "Fine," and kept walking. I pressed, mentioning the SUV, asking if it was family or a security job. He stopped, turned, and looked through me, his eyes like black glass. "I'd mind your own business," he said, his voice flat but heavy, a blade pressed to my throat. I backed off, my pulse hammering. This wasn't a man you crossed. I bought a cheap dash cam, mangled it to catch the walkway. I recorded the visits, the fires, the scraping sounds that woke me in the dark, my heart pounding like a trapped animal. After the 3rd SUV sighting, it stopped. No fires, no visitors, no sound. Flynn didn't leave his apartment, or so it seemed. I began to wonder if he'd vanished, or if he was lying dead behind those unyielding blinds. Then the couple arrived. On a Friday night, the purr of a luxury engine pulled me to the window. A silver McLaren gleamed in the lot, alien among the rusting pickups. A man and a woman stepped out, dressed for a world that wasn't theirs. Tailored coats, her heels clicking like shotguns, his hair trimmed to a razor's edge. They moved with purpose to Flynn's door, and he opened it before they knocked, as if summoned. The voices that followed weren't like the others, clipped, urgent, teetering on rage. Flynn's low tone tried to soothe, but the man pushed back, sharp and relentless. The woman spoke rarely, but her words cut like a scalpel through the night. Then silent. They walked out, calm as a machine. Flint escorting them to their car with a smile that didn't touch his eyes. They drove off, and the complex seemed to hold its breath. The silence that followed was oppressive. No scraping, no fires, no lights behind Flynn's blinds. Then the smell began. It crept in on a Thursday, faint, like sour milk or garbage left too long. By Friday, it was a choking, rotting stench that clawed at my throat. I thought something had died in a crawl space and called management, but no one came. Saturday, I left for work with my windows open, my shirt over my nose. When I returned, the lot was a nightmare. Cruisers, an unmarked black unit, an ambulance, tape across Flynn's door. A crime scene tech crouched by the patio, scribbling. One of the student men from the SUV stood apart, arms crossed, watching the cops with a predator's patience. I lingered until a tall officer, mid-40s with weary eyes, approached. What's going on?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Found someone deceased," he said, flat. "You a neighbor?" I nodded, spilling everything. The fires, the SUV, the couple, the scraping at 2 a.m. He scribbled, nodding, but his face stayed blank, like he'd seen worse. "Not a homicide," he said. "No forced entry, no injuries. The coroner says natural, dead at least a week. I must have looked doubtful because he shrugged. Weird guy, weird life, not always foul play. They zipped the body bag, loaded it, and drove into the dusk. That night, I sat in my living room, staring at the wall between us. The silence screamed. I kept circling one detail I hadn't shared. The last time I saw Flynn, after the couple left, I glimpsed something through the patio door. A flash, maybe. But it looked like a metal table bolted to the floor, with heavy canvas straps, staying dark at the buckles. No apartment has that. By Monday, his unit was gutted. No hazmat, no news, just quiet men with gloves and boxes. Management said nothing. I watched from my curtains as they tore out the carpet, the blinds, and the fridge. But the table stayed, covered with a tarp, immovable. When the crew left for lunch, I slipped out and peeked. The straps weren't leather. Canvas, army surplus, stained with something that wasn't rust. The floor beneath was scored, deep grooves from repeated dragging, not from furniture, but from something heavier, something deliberate. A week later, the black SUV returned. No cops, no lights, just the vehicle idling at 5 a.m. It stayed an hour, then drove off, slow, like it owned the night. I searched for Flynn online. No last name, no records, no death certificate. He was a ghost. The unit stayed empty for months, the air thick with that rotting memory. A young couple moved in eventually, all fairy lights and smiles. They brought a baby, watered plants, and seemed happy. But on warm nights with their patio door creak, I hear it. A slow, heavy scraping, metal on tile, through the wall. It's faint, but it's there, like the apartment remembers. I lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering what's still bolted to the floor, beneath their feet, what they're living with, unaware. The air in my dorm room felt heavy that autumn, thick with the kind of restless energy that only a college campus in the early 2010s could muster. Tinder was new then, a digital siren call that promised connection but carried a faint, thrilling edge of danger. I wasn't some smooth-talking player, but I had my system honed through trial and error. Keep it light, chat for a week, gauge the vibe, then suggest a meetup at Billy's on 12th. It was a bar I knew, like the back of my hand. Loud, crowded, safe. The kind of place where you could slip out the back of the person across the table wasn't who they claimed to be. Catfish, drama queens, weirdos. They were all part of the game, and my system weeded them out. Or so I thought. I'd met plenty of girls that way. Art majors with paint-splattered jeans, pre-med students with nervous laughs, sorority types, chasing free drinks. Some clicked, some didn't. None stuck. Maybe I got bored too easily, or maybe they did. It was a cycle. Rinse, repeat, move on. I was fine with it, addicted to the rhythm of it all. Until I matched up with her, Annika. Her profile was a shadow cast across the glowing screen on my phone. Long black hair that seemed to swallow light. Heavy eyeliner, framing, eyes like polished obsidian, skin so pale it looked like it had never known the sun. Not my usual type, but her captions cut like a knife. Witty, dark, with a bite that hooked me instantly. Within an hour of messaging, I felt it. A strange magnetic pull. She liked the same obscure bands I did, quoted the same guilty pleasure TV shows, even loathed the same pompous professor I had. It was like she'd been plucked from the edges of my own mind. Finally, I thought, someone who gets it. We talked for 6 days straight, our messages threading through daylight and deep into the witching hours. It wasn't love, not some sappy room-calm spark, but it felt real. Like we would sit across from each other and just talk. No masks, no awkward silences. On day 7, I invited her to Billy's, my comfort zone, my turf. If she was half as good in person as she was over text, we'd be golden. I had no idea what I was stepping into. I got to Billy's 10 minutes early, as always. Paranoia, maybe, but I like control. I picked a table in the back, my spine pressed against the wall, eyes on the door. A whiskey ginger sat sweating in my hand as I scanned the crowd, trying not to overthink. She seemed normal, better than normal, engaging, sharp, real. Relax, I told myself, sipping slowly. Then she walked in. Annika was more than her photos. Her presence was a blade, slicing through the bar's haze of laughter and clinking glasses. Her hair curled like ink at the ends. Her lips stained a deep, unnatural red. Her head turned. Guys, girls, even the bartender froze for a split second. She spotted me instantly. Her smile sharp and knowing, like we were already sharing a secret. Her boots should have clinked against the hard floor, but they didn't. Silent as a shadow, she glided to my table and slid into the seat across from me. You always take your dates to this place? Her voice was low, smoky, curling around me like a noose. Not accusing, but probing. Testing. I laughed, scratching the back of my neck. It's a good spot. Familiar. Decent drinks. She raised an eyebrow, her lips twitching. So, I'm not the first then. Something in her tone gave me goosebumps, like a cold finger brushed my spine. I tried to laugh it off. Hey, no offense, but that's kind of the deal with dating apps, right? You meet people, see what clicks. She didn't smile back. Instead, she leaned forward, elbows on the table, her eyes locking onto mine. Amanda. Kay. Jess. The other Amanda. I count at least 10 others. My stomach lurched, the whiskey turning sour in my throat. Those were the name of the girls I'd brought here over the last 5 months. My mouth went dry. How do you even know those names? She tilted her head, her smirk cold, predatory. You left your Instagram link on your profile. You'd be surprised what you can find when you really start looking. You tagged one of your dates in a story a while back. From there, it wasn't hard to piece together the rest. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. The bar's noise faded, swallowed by the thudding in my ears. I glanced around, suddenly hyper-aware of how isolated our table was. Annika reached into her purse and pulled out a folder. Thick, manila, the kind you see in a detective's office. She dropped it on the table with a soft thud and flipped it open. Pages slid towards me. Photos of my apartment building, grainy but unmistakable. My student ID, screenshots of my social media posts, my mom's name, my class schedule, my address, a list of old passwords I'd used years ago. "You work at the bookstore, right?" she asked, her voice calm but bored. "Tuesdays and Thursdays?" I nodded, my brain spiraling into static. What the hell is this? She smiled, but it was wrong. Too wide, too sharp. "Just information. That's what you like, isn't it? You talk to people, figure them out, then toss them aside when they don't spark your interest anymore. I thought I'd return the favor." My chest tightened, the air thinning. "I've never hurt anyone," I stammered. "I date like everyone else does. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's not a crime." "No," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "But treating people like files, like data points to collect and discard, that's not human. You're not here for connection. You're collecting trophies, and I'm going to hold you accountable for every single one." I shook my head, desperation creeping in. "You're creepiness. That's not what I do." She shrugged, her eyes glinting like a predator's in the dark. 11 in 5 months. Same bar, same lines, same tired questions. People notice patterns like that. I tried to steady my breath to stay calm. "So what? You've been stalking me on the app?" "Not just the app," she said softly, her words slithering into my skull. "You matched with me 3 times before this. You didn't even notice." My heart stopped. "I've never matched with you before," I said, my voice cracking. She gave me a look that made my blood run cold. "You matched with Alice, with Harper, with Jenny." The names hit me like bullets. The familiarity of her jokes, the way she seemed to know me from the start. It wasn't coincidence. She's been there, lurking behind fake profiles, watching me, studying me, cataloging every move I made. She's been hunting me. I stood, my chair scraping loudly. "I'm done here." She was up, in an instant, too fast, her movements fluid and unnatural. "You think you're the good guy in this story?" she hissed, her voice rising, venomous. "You think you're just some innocent swiping through life, playing it safe while people bleed on the other side of that screen?" Heads turned. The bar's hum faltered, eyes locking onto us. I raised my hands, palms out. "You need to calm down." "You're a user," she spat, loud enough for the whole room to hear. "You collect people, then dump them the second they don't fit your little fantasy. You think being polite makes it okay?" The bartender approached, his face wary. Everything okay over here?" Annika whirled on him, her eyes wild, almost feral. "He's a liar, a manipulator. Ask him how many girls he's ghosted." I backed away, feeling the weight of every stare in the room. "Ma'am," the bartender said, his voice firm, I need you to leave. She turned to me one last time, her gaze boring into my soul. You'll see. You'll understand what it's like to be watched, to be studied, to be used. And then she was gone, storming out into the night, leaving the bar in a suffocating silence. The bartender looked at me, his expression caught between pity and disgust. I paid my tab and left, the weight of 20 gazes burning into my back. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my desk, every light in my apartment blazing, scrolling through old messages, rereading conversations I'd long forgotten. Had they all been her? Alice? Harper? Jenny? How many others? The profiles are gone, deleted, like they never existed. My skin crawled as I realized I couldn't tell what was real anymore. By morning, I deleted every dating app, nuked my social media, Instagram, Facebook, even LinkedIn. I changed every password, scrubbed every tagged photo. It felt like erasing a crime scene I hadn't known I'd created. 2 days later, the email started. Burner Gmail accounts with subjects like, "Hey player," or "Still collecting?" Single sentences, sharp and taunting. "Still sleeping with one eye open?" One had a photo attached. Me leaving class, headphones on, timestamped the same day. My hands shook as I reported it to campus security. But they were useless. No clear threat. No proof it was her. Just a digital shadow I couldn't shake. For 3 weeks, the emails kept coming, each one a needle under my skin. Then, abruptly, they stopped. No more messages. No sightings. No trace of Annika. It was like she dissolved into the ether. A ghost that had haunted me and then vanished. But she left her mark. Every new message on any platform, every stranger's glance on campus, every time I heard my name spoken by someone I didn't know, it sent a shiver down my spine. She turned something casual, something normal, into a poison that seeped into every corner of my life. I don't hate her anymore. Haven't in years. When people ask, I mutter something about a bad breakup, but that's not the truth. The truth is, you don't realize how you expose who you are until someone decides to map your life, to turn your habits into a cage. I did that in my own way, didn't I? Not with malice, but with carelessness. And maybe that's what she meant when she said, some people aren't files. She wasn't a hero, not by a long shot. But she made me see the blood on my hands, the weight of every connection I'd treated as disposable. I still feel her eyes on me sometimes, in the dark, when the world is quiet, watching and waiting. The teaching assistant gig was supposed to be a lifeline, a way to keep my head above the black waters of debt, while I clawed my way through the final year of my degree. It was mundane work, grading papers, prepping coursework, running tutoring sessions for students who couldn't keep up or just didn't care to try. The kind of job that grinds you down, not with a single blow, but with 1,000 tiny cuts, each one draining a little more of your soul. I didn't mind at first. I kept my head low, fueled by bitter coffee and the pretense of having it all together. The campus was a labyrinth of routine, a place where I could blend into the gray hum of academia. But something was waiting in the shadows, watching, and I didn't see it until it was too late. It started with him, Tony Michael. He introduced himself as if his name were a single unbroken thing, his voice a low hum that seemed to vibrate in the air too long. "Hi, Tony Michael," he said, his hand clamping onto mine. His grip was cold, clammy, like something dredged from a stagnant pond. His eyes locked into mine, unblinking, daring me to look away first. It wasn't a greeting. It was a challenge, a silent claim. I brushed it off as social awkwardness. Campus was full of oddballs, after all. He said he needed help with an essay prompt. His words overly eager, his smile too wide, like it had been practiced in a mirror. I told him to come by Friday for a one-on-one session, and he nodded with a fervor that made my skin goosebump. He walked away without waiting for a response, his footsteps too deliberate, too measured. Friday came and he didn't show. I waited in the stuffy office, the clock ticking louder than it should have, the air heavy with the scent of old books and desperation. 15 minutes, then 20, and I packed up, muttering about flaky students. But when I reached my car in the dim parking lot, something was wrong. The world felt tilted, like I'd stepped into a place where the rules don't apply. Tucked under my windshield wiper was a packet. Not a note, not a scrap, but 8 handwritten pages, the ink bleeding slightly, as if written in a frenzy. It began with an apology. "Sorry I couldn't make it." But then it twisted into something darker, something that crawled into my mind and nested there. He wrote about watching me through the windows of the Humanities building, about how my car didn't match my face, whatever in the hell that meant. He mentioned my credit score, my blinds, things no one should know. And at the end, a drawing, a crude childlike sketch of me, my smile wide and empty, my eyes hollowed out like pits. I threw it in the trash, my hands shaking, telling myself it was a prank, a sick joke. But the air felt heavier now, the shadows longer. I drove home with the radio off, the silence pressing against my eardrums. The next week, the world began to unravel. It started small, insidious. Late at night, my dorm buzzer would scream, a shrill cry that echoed in the empty halls. I stumbled to the intercom, heart pounding, only to find no one there, just the wind. Or so I told myself. Emails began flooding my inbox, unsigned, from addresses that looked like random strings of numbers and letters. "We need to sync our energy. You're not as smart as you think." I marked them as spam, but then one arrived that stopped me cold. "You shouldn't have thrown it away." My stomach twisted. I didn't respond, didn't dare engage. But deep down, I knew. It was him. It was always him. Then came the second note, slipped under the professor's office door like a venomous snake. One page written in the same loopy scrawl, the kind that looked like it belonged to a child's diary, but carried a weight that made my chest tighten. He'd seen me in the student union. He wrote, "You chew with purpose." He described the brand of my socks, the way I tied my shoes. I started locking the office door, then my dorm, even in broad daylight. The world felt like it was watching me. Every window a pair of eyes, every shadow a threat. Tony Michael never returned to tutoring. His name vanished from the pop-up sheets, but his presence lingered, a stain on the edges of my life. The notes kept coming, each one more invasive, more unhinged. A plastic dinosaur appeared on my windshield, its painted eyes staring blankly. A hairbrush, still in its packaging, was taped to my dorm door with the words, "For when things get tangled," scrawled across it. I didn't know what it meant, and the not knowing was worse than any answer could have been. Each gift was a violation, a reminder that he was out there, circling closer. Then came the blood. It was a Friday night, the campus library's fluorescent lights still buzzing in my head as I drudged up the stairs to my dorm. The entryway was dark, the air thick with a metallic tang that hit me before I saw it. A pool of blood, dark and glistening, spread across the floor tiles. It was still wet, tacky under my shoes, perfectly centered as if poured from a bucket with deliberate care. There was no trail, no signs of a struggle, just that crimson lake, silent and accusing. I asked around, my voice shaking, but no one had seen anything. The RA shrugged, and the other guys on my floor made weak jokes about dining hall meat. I didn't laugh. I locked my door and stayed up all night, staring at the peephole, jumping at every creak in the hall. The blood wasn't random. It was a message, and I was the only one who could read it. I told my professor, the one I assisted, but I kept it vague. A student acting strange, nothing more. He gave me a tired nod. His eyes glazed with the exhaustion of someone who'd seen too many semesters. But 2 days later, he pulled me into his office, his face pale, his hands trembling. "This needs to stop," he said, slamming the door. He showed me his phone, played a voicemail that made my blood run cold. A voice, distorted, jagged, barely human, screamed my name, over and over, accusing him of being part of some conspiracy, of ruining my life. "It's you," it hissed. "You're using his name, his job." I stammered that it wasn't me, that I had nothing to do with it. But he didn't care. "Get control of it or you're out. No references, no work studies, nothing." I nodded, my heart a drumbeat in my chest. But I was already sinking. Tony Michael wasn't just leaving notes anymore. He was stealing my identity, twisting it into something grotesque, using my name to terrorize others. I couldn't sleep, couldn't think. The campus, once a sanctuary, was now a maze of traps, every corner hiding his shadow. I had to end it. I had to catch him. I set a trap in the parking lot where it all began, where his first note had slithered into my life. I parked my car in its usual spot, left the doors unlocked, and placed a note of my own under the wiper. A vague personal message, bait for a predator who craved control. Then I looped around campus, my footsteps echoing in the empty corridors, and met up with Patrick, a campus security guard I knew from late library shifts. He was built like a fortress, his temper a spark waiting for a match. I told him enough to get him on board, And we holed up in a supply room overlooking the lot, watching through the blinds. 30 minutes passed, then 40. The lot was still, the sodium lights casting sickly yellow pools. Then he appeared. Tony Michael emerged from between two parked cars, and my breath caught in my throat. He wasn't just strange, he was wrong. A distortion of reality. He wore a child's outfit, overalls too small, a cartoon rocket ship stretched across his chest, a plastic baseball cap perched crookedly on his head. He moved with a stiff, jerky shuffle, his head swiveling like a predator scanning for prey. He looked like something that had crawled out of a nightmare, a mockery of innocence. He reached my car, snatched the note, and unfolded it, reading with a fervor that made my skin crawl. Patrick was already moving, radio crackling, calling for backup. He burst out of the room, his boots pounding the stairs and charging across the lot. "Stop right there," he bellowed. Tony Michael's head snapped up, his eyes wide and feral. He clutched the note to his chest and hissed, a sound that wasn't human, wasn't natural, and then he lunged. I watched from the supply room, frozen, as he slammed into Patrick with a scream that tore through the night. His hands clawed at Patrick's face, nails digging into his flesh, teeth snapping like a wild animal's. Patrick went down yelling, blood streaming from his cheeks. I sprinted out, screaming for help, but Tony Michael was already gone, darting between cars like a shadow, vanishing into the dark. Patrick sat up, one eye swelling shut, blood dripping onto the asphalt. "Son of a bitch," he spat, clutching his face. "Scratch my damn eye." I helped him up, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst. Backup arrived too late, their flashlights sweeping empty spaces. The aftermath was a blur. Statements, meetings, the dean's office. They searched the student database for Tony Michael. Nothing. No enrollment, no record. He wasn't even a student. Maybe never had been. Just a ghost, a phantom, who slipped through the cracks of a campus, too sprawling to notice. Security tightened. Flyers went up, but no one knew him. Not from classes, not from dorms, not from anywhere. He was nobody, and that made him everybody. They pulled me from the TA job, citing safety concerns. My professor wouldn't meet my eyes. Patrick needed 12 stitches, one just missing his eye. He never blamed me, but his gaze lingered, heavy with unspoken questions. I changed everything. My parking spots, my dorm room, my routines. I carried a pocket knife, not for protection, but for the illusion of control. Every tenant window, an echo of footsteps made me flinch. I scanned reflections, checked corners, lived like prey. The police took my statements, but without a real name, without clear footage, without a crime they could pin down. There was nothing to pursue, just stories and scars. A question mark that hung in the air like smoke. Tony Michael was gone, but he wasn't. He was in every shadow, every creak, every stranger's glance. I don't know what he wanted. Control, attention, or something darker. Something I can't name. All I know is he shattered my world, left me questioning every face, every kindness. I don't help strangers anymore. I don't trust the light. And somewhere out there, I know he's still watching. And that, dear listeners, brings a close to these true Stalker stories. I'd like to take a moment and acknowledge the rest of the membership of Back to Ashes. Thank you all so much for your continuous support. As I always say, without you, I wouldn't have a voice, and Back to Ashes wouldn't exist. I deeply appreciate you supporting the channel. If you are new here and you've liked what you've heard, please hit that like button and comment. And while you're at it, share it with your friends and family. If you would like to become part of the Back to Ashes family, please hit that subscribe button and set your bell notifications to all. That way you'll know every time I upload a video. If you are sleeping, I hope Slumberland is treating you comfortably. If you're awake, I hope you've enjoyed this collection. In the meantime, please stay vigilant and stay safe out there. I'll be reading to you soon. Have yourself a good morning, a good afternoon, or a good evening. Peace, love, and light to you all.